Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is Dorrani, James, and Alex from VG247, and the PlayStation Showcase was yesterday. Ooh, ooh, it was nice. It was spicy. I'd say so. It was definitely. They love to come with the back-to-back bangers and not a lot of fluff. It's just here's all the games that we wanted to show you. It took us a while, but here they are. What did you guys think?
I think
it was good.
Yeah, it was good. It's good. You can only get so excited about adverts, right? Even though you're trying your hardest, aren't you, Dorrani?
Yeah.
And so much. I think this is the thing. It was good. There were some great hitters in there, some fucking rad-looking games. So much stuff is so far away, though, that it becomes hard to get excited about stuff like Wolverine or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, that said, if you're a PS5 owner already, I think you can look at this and feel really heartened. If you're not a PS5 owner, is there enough here to push you over the edge?
Yeah.
I don't know yet. You might be looking at this and going, well, the time to buy a PS5 is actually 2023.
Yeah,
but,
it could be.
But, I think, that you get to that point with that sort of thinking where you're nitpicking a little bit, where there were some great games in the presentation, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's best we just sort of go through the list. I've got the list here over to my left, and just go through it. And if we got something to say about it, we just pit stop on that game for a little bit, have a little bit of a discussion. So they showed their trailer. It's funny because they showed like their marketing trailer was like of someone playing chess, and I feel like that's what PlayStation does as a company. Like they're quite methodic with their like movements, and I just thought that was little. I had that in my notes. But first, we have a game that I saw Twitter going absolutely nuts for, and I didn't get into this franchise for a while. It was only recently I got into this franchise as a whole, not just the games. But Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake. This got a lot of people excited.
So yeah, and with good reason. So KOTOR is, for those who do not know, the original KOTOR was a BioWare game. In many ways, you can sort of view that game as the archetype that led to Mass Effect, to Dragon Age, and those games led to loads of other types of games, right? It's like another game in this, right? The Guardians of the Galaxy game probably owes a bit to Mass Effect, which owes its life to KOTOR. So you can trace a lot of stuff back to KOTOR. And it's a great game. It's aged okay. I would say most of the ways in which it's aged are not game design ways, but visual ways. So it's an ideal candidate for a remake. And that's it. There's not an enormous amount to say about it. It's a classic. It's coming back. It is one of the most beloved Star Wars stories in the whole of the Star Wars pantheon, and for good reason, I would say. There's going to be a lot of interesting questions about this. Is stuff like, do they end up recasting characters because some of those performances are quite iconic? That's a question that I wondered about immediately. How much of the gameplay system is going to change, because it is a more old school RPG than you would probably attach to the Star Wars name these days. But yeah, I mean, it's a CG trailer. The game is probably fucking ages away.
Long time away.
It looks like quite a big game to remaster as well, RPGs.
Well, so this is the thing, right? They're calling it a remake, which to my mind means they're rebuilding it from the ground up, which means, yes, it is a hell of a lot of game. And it's actually a weird thing, like, where I think the amount of work that has to go into remaking a game like this, of that size, you'd almost be better off making a new game, just making a new Knights of the Old Republic. But people do love that story and stuff, so I get it.
Would you like to see it in the style of like Jedi Fallen Order, but with like just way more instead of it being like a Souls, like it being like the RPG?
Well, no, because it's a different sort of game. It's a different sort of game. So Knights of the Old Republic is you're landing on planets, you're going from planet to planet in a very different way to how you do in Fallen Order. And it's a different sort of game. You know, it's got more in common with Mass Effect than anything, I would say. and you're managing party members as well. That's a very key, crucial component of it that doesn't match up with that sort of thing. So it's going to be a very, very different sort of game.
I watched it. Sorry, I just want to say I watched like some of the gameplay, and it's like there's a free mouse. It's like you don't control the camera, or
it's an RPG. It's an RPG, so you're dealing with commands more than anything.
Yeah. See, when you say it's an RPG, I think the way you're saying it's not coming out the way I understand it. Because when you say it's an RPG, you're talking about. Go on.
I'm talking about old school. It's you know this game is descended from CRPGs, computer RPGs, which is games like Neverwinter Nights and stuff like that.
Okay.
So that's the lineage there, Ultima, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that is the thing. In the modern age, the expectation of a lot of players is that you have direct control over your characters. And so, and you do have direct control, but there's sort of auto attack and stuff like that. And so, yeah, but I also think we could talk about it till the cows come home, but they're going to have to make some very hard decisions, and we will learn what they decide probably in like 2 years.
I thought it was an interesting choice to lead with, especially after you mentioned it briefly at the start there. There was the Sony ad that seemed to last for about 45 minutes just on its own.
Yeah.
And if I'm honest, it didn't fill me with confidence for the rest of the showcase to have a trailer for a CG trailer at that for a remake right at the start. I thought we were going to be in for another 45 minutes of Patapon DLC and Vibram Remastered or whatever. But
hey, a Vibram Remaster would be big news.
Yeah, exactly.
So screw you, buddy.
Bring back Klonoa. But I think it did have my kind of old game is old senses tingling a little bit, that it's like, oh man, we've just had this really long trailer about nothing. Now we've got a remake. It's like, oh, I want some new games. But at the same time, KOTOR, the original, did come out in 2003. And how old were you in 2003? Dorrani, like -3?
Mate, why we always gotta do this, man?
But anyway, so
you're 1 year older than me, dude.
So it reminds me a lot of Final Fantasy VII Remake. That a lot of us are like, oh yeah, well, because I was like 3 years old when Final Fantasy VII came out, or whatever. So it's like they might
Alex
as well be new games,
old right now.
Even if you got like an original Xbox when you were like 12 or something, because your dad had one, or some of this stuff. I think when games are in that sort of sweet spot of getting on for 20 years old, they might as well be new games. A lot of people, including myself.
Well, if you're remaking it from the ground up, also.
Yeah.
If you're remaking it from the ground up, also. So, like, here's the thing. It's like, this is the interesting thing. Final Fantasy VII Remake, we're over a year from release now. I think it's open season on spoilery stuff. But Final Fantasy VII Remake is a remake, but it's also a sequel to Final Fantasy VII. I don't think this will be that. This will probably be more like Resident Evil, which was just like here's a retelling of this story that is the new canon version of this story. Although apparently this still isn't canon to the Star Wars universe, because obviously they drew a line under it when Disney purchased it and said all the old stuff. And apparently this doesn't bring it into the new stuff. It's still a Legends story, so it's not canon, which sort of sucks. You would think that redoing the story, they would make any changes they needed to make to bring it into the current canon, but okay. Anyway, it's a long time to talk about a CG trailer.
Yeah,
it's a big get for Sony as well in the sense of it being console launch exclusive. So that's clearly coming to Xbox eventually. Obviously, the original game was an Xbox console exclusive, so it's sort of. I think that's also probably a part of why Sony chose to lead with it, because they're probably like, well,
gotcha, bitch.
We got your shit, you know. But yeah,
that happened twice, didn't it, with Alan Wake as well?
Yeah,
that was always an Xbox game.
Yeah.
So
we'll get to Alan Wake in a moment. Just to round up Star Wars, a lot of people were excited for it. I would like to see it once it's ready to be shown, just see if I'm excited for it. As I said, Star Wars is something that I'm quite new to. I've seen all of them now. But yeah. moving on, we have Borderlands, Tiny Tina's
I
Wonderland.
think you missed one, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't
That's
Project
right. Oh,
Eve.
I did.
Like
Sorry,
that.
Project Booty.
I don't have an enormous amount to say about this, other than to say there are a lot of games that look like Nier Automata now.
Yep.
That's it. It looks fine, but it is that thing of there are so many Nier Automata alikes. It's starting to grate a little bit. That's all I've got to say.
I don't think it looks good, to be honest. Sorry to cut you there, James.
No, cool.
I don't think it looks good. Do you know what this reminded me of immediately? It reminded me of remember when Horizon Forbidden West was announced, yeah? There was this big conversation going on about
how Aloy looks.
How Aloy looks. And people said Aloy's not attractive enough. Aloy's not sexy enough. She's not a good female protagonist because she's not hot. In my mind's eye, when I saw Project Eve, this is what I thought that gamers want. Those gamers, those people that play games and want characters to just be sexy and just tight clothes and all the jiggle physics in the world.
I've got to be honest.
Project Eve was. That's what they wanted it to be.
This is just what the character design looks like in these Korean games right now. You know, Black Desert Online, they all bloody look like
Love
this.
it.
So
love it. In Naraka Blade Point, same thing. It's just jiggle. But
it's one of those things. When I look at it, I just have little to. I don't see that, and I'm like, wooga. I got to play this game. Look at the booba, etc., etc. But if the game plays really well, then we'll talk.
It's because you're not
so I
down
look forward
bad,
to checking
man.
it out.
I'm assuming you've touched grass recently, so you've gone outside and seen the world. That's why you don't. That stuff is not the main attraction. But know that somewhere in this world, someone says, "Listen, that is like day one purchase because of the."
Yeah, I'm sure. And hey, look, Nier Automata is one of the best games of the last generation, and it's got plenty of fan servicey TNA stuff. So
it's true.
It is what it is, right?
It is what it is.
We need to do. Whatever.
We'll see. I'm going to loop back to Project Eve when we get to Forspoken. There's something I want to say about that, and I think, Alex, you're going to say the same thing and agree with me here. But firstly, Borderlands Tiny Tina's Wonderlands on March 25th. We got to see some gameplay for that, and it looks like more Borderlands, and just with that little Dungeons and Dragons spin to it. But it's just like more Borderlands, which isn't a bad thing, I'd say. But what do you guys reckon?
Yeah, I like Borderlands 3 and all of the DLC for that. I played quite a lot of that pretty heavily, to be honest. And as you say, it's a little bit formulaic these days because it has been... How many Borderlands games are there? There's 3 main series ones. There's the pre-sequel. It's very tried and tested at this point, isn't it? But in the gameplay that we saw, there seemed to be a little bit of a Skyrim-ification of the kind of right hand and left hand, a little bit kind of Dishonored or Deathloopy, if you want to take it in that direction. And so it seems like they are trying to update or refresh that formula a little bit. And if the kind of funnies work, then I think it'll work in general. It's just whether I think the Tiny Tina character in general is one of the, I guess, try-hardery elements of the Borderlands series. So you have to. We just have to see if it tries too hard, I guess. But you can't argue with a trailer soundtrack by Baby Metal, can you? Baby Metal rule. We're all Baby Metal stands here.
They were trending on Twitter after the trailer, so that tells you everything you need to know, right?
I don't know the song, but that's expected because I'm assuming, was it a rock song? I didn't even hear the song.
Baby Metal is a Japanese metal band, but the people in it are like the people that would usually be in idol bands, cute young girls.
Yeah.
So it's basically session metal musicians who are incredible metal musicians with almost sweet singing over the top. They're good. To be honest, they are good. To be honest, that is the funny thing. It's like when they were new out, which has got to be like 6 or 7 years ago now.
Yeah,
when those girls were like 14, 15, younger, I think. It was sort of a meme, but actually in reality, they're quite good, and it's like a lot of big metal gods really respect them, which is interesting. As in, like, you know, a lot of high profile metal musicians really love what they do, so
That's
I
what's up,
defer
man.
to them. Anyway, yeah, so
Yes.
that's
Might do a bit of
Wonderlands.
research.
Forspoken, I will just. So, a little bit of background. So, this is from Luminous Productions. Luminous Productions is the studio that basically made Final Fantasy 15. Luminous is the engine that powered Final Fantasy 15, although notably, it's not powering Final Fantasy 16, it's not powering Final Fantasy 7 Remake, the first part or the second part. It doesn't appear to be used in any other Square Enix games. Despite the fact that when they were building it, they were like, this is going to be our one engine, like EA and Frostbite or whatever. So I think it's safe to say the engine has had its ups and downs. It is a good looking engine, though. I think Final Fantasy 15, it's got a signature look to it, and I think in that sense, Forspoken looks a lot like Final Fantasy 15. It sort of like has an organicness to it, but also a jagginess to it. It's really hard to. Anyway, here's the thing. I just look at this game and I'm like, it looks well expensive. It looks really technically impressive. And I said on Twitter, I just feel nothing. It's like a black hole of charisma and stuff. And
It's all image, man. It's all image.
the thing is, right? So they did a tech demo for Luminous called Agnes Philosophy, which was also in some instances called Witch. Square Enix accidentally, when they uploaded the first trailer for Forspoken, didn't change the description of the trailer from like the prototype version, and instead of Forspoken, it referred to the game as Project Witch, which makes clear that there's a lineage between Agnes Philosophy, that tech demo from 2013, and this. Now, the funny thing is, I loved Agnes Philosophy, and I on RPG Site, I interviewed the guys behind it, and they made very, very clear that they wanted it to become a game, and I was like, sounds great, love the concept. Ironically, I get none of that out of Forspoken, what they've ended up with. Admittedly, the guys who did the Agnes demo, the leads on that, aren't actually at Square anymore, so this is different people. But, yeah, and I just think also, I think the PR marketing's done a really poor job in the sense that they've shown the game like 4 times now, and it still isn't clear what the game is actually about.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, this character gets pulled from New York to this fantasy world. She's got sick traversal moves and magic, and there's someone she's got to kill. But what's the game actually about? What's the loop? Are you going into dungeons? I think you might be killing bosses in a non-linear Shadow of the Colossus sort of way, maybe. But anyway, they've got a long. I am 100% the target audience of this game. I'm a Final Fantasy fan. I'm a technical nerd, so I love seeing the engine and stuff like that. I was in love with the Agnes Philosophy demo, and I just look at this and I just get nothing from it. And I said this on Twitter, and it's brutal, but it is the truth. The last time I felt like this about a game was Avengers, where I went to see Avengers, and I was like, this looks expensive and lavish, and I can see the vision, but it all left me cold, and I'm getting exactly the same feeling off this. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, they've got a lot more to show, clearly. It's out in the spring, but it's a big... They've got to work to get me now, basically. They got to put the work in.
It just looks like a massive tech demo, to be fair. Like, that's the only way to put it.
When they first announced it, it didn't have a name, right? It was like Project Luminous or whatever, wasn't it?
Project Athia, which is the name of the world in the game, yeah.
And I just don't. I think I agree with you. I definitely agree that it was a mistake to announce it without a name, because you're right that it doesn't quite have that hook of retention of it still feels unfinished because it was shown in such a.
I don't know, because I think they
feel like it's not all there.
See, that doesn't bother me. You can announce stuff as Project whatever all the time. The only danger is that, you know, you say it too many times and then it becomes the name of the thing. Like how
exactly.
You know, it was Xbox, and then Microsoft said Xbox one time too many. and then that was it. That was the name because they'd said it too many times, even though they hadn't planned for Xbox to be the name. Or Project Octopath Traveler, right? We'll see if Triangle Strategy comes out and it's called Triangle Strategy. I bet it is.
Yeah.
But it's just like, even the name that they went with in the end for Spoken is generic as. It's just like,
Yeah, it's not very
spooky generic fantasy word. And that sums up the game. I definitely want to see more from it, but I just right now they've lost me in a big way with this game, and I was on board the first time they showed it.
I quite like the look of it, just because, and it's interesting that you say that you bring up Avengers, that it does look quite similar because kind of the Square Enix kind of links with that stuff or whatever. But
I wonder if the international aspect is a part of the problem here. So it's a Square Enix Japan game, but it's being written by Westerners and all that sort of stuff. So you've got this sort of East-West collaboration, which is a good thing. But if it's not managed right, maybe, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it does fit. I just thought that it maybe could be quite good, because I think this is another issue when you leave a lot of gaps in what you're showing about the a particular game that's been quite esoteric in what it's in its trailers before, that people kind of fill that void with exactly what they want it to be. And so when I was watching that trailer, I thought, oh, this might be the best superhero game that we've got, because you kind of get that superhero vibe with those superhero-y powers and traversal and stuff. And then they're obviously trying to do that kind of Iron Man and Jarvis thing with the kind of faux British accent of the Cuff Man and all of that stuff. And
yeah, I'm curious who that is. That voice sounds really familiar, and I'm going to guess that is a celebrity. I don't know if they said, but obviously the girl is the protagonist. She is, I forget her name, but she was in that Charlie's Angels reboot and stuff like that. So I'm going to guess that voice is probably someone we know.
Yeah, well, I think it could end up being quite good when it comes out. But as you say,
hopefully, right now it's just leaving me so cold.
Yeah, do you know what? There's like this thing happening in the games industry with like these new games coming out, where we're at the point now where games can just look amazing with like, I don't want to say little effort, but games are coming out that look just unreal. Like, excuse the pun. Like things like, have you seen the Black Myth Wukong? Like games like that where you're like, this just looks too good to be true. Like games like that. And there's a game that also was shown. It's called Chia. I think it was like towards the end. It was just before the Uncharted
that looks
stuff.
fabulous. Yeah.
And I'm like, how does this game look so good? But it's like it's an intentional design choice because it's like hyper stylized. But with Forspoken, it's given me. Do you remember the game Godfall, where it looks nice, but I know that it's just gonna be hollow. Like it's gonna be so hollow. It's gonna be nothing to it. The combat's gonna feel like just paper, just nothing. It's gonna have no like weight to it. That's what it looks like. Some of the combat moves do look like big and fun, but it's, I don't know, man. It didn't look like God of War's combat where it's like gritty, it's intentional, it's hard hitting. It just looked a bit, Biomutant-y, where it's just.
And at the end of the day, it can only take you so far, the visuals. So hopefully,
the world looks gorgeous, though. I will say that.
Hopefully, yeah, it does. But hopefully, they show a bit more of the game and explain what the flow of the actual game is, and it turns me around. But there's something about it now where I just get a bad juju off it. I can't explain it. So
intuition, man, intuition. You've been in the games thing for a long time. So, anyways, to round that up, the combat looks a bit mid. The movement looks sick, and the environment, the scale looks insane. Because if you watch back that trailer, the world just looks huge. Moving on, we have Rainbow Six Extraction. Moving on, we have Alan Wake Remaster. We have Alan Wake Remaster. I'm joking. Now, do you have anything to say about Rainbow Six Extraction, guys?
People like these games. I think I wasn't a big fan of The Division. Like I'm not a huge fan of collecting real world branded socks and that give me plus.
It's what Tom Clancy would have wanted.
Yeah, that's what
Extraction's not open world though, is it?
511
it's not a looter shooter, is it? This is like a horde sort of game. This is more like Gears of War Extraction.
Oh, there's going to be branded branded combat boots in it. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
But
You're not a fan.
I don't know. I'm sure the kind of, we've talked a couple of times about what's the loop in these different games, but I think that kind of division loop is quite compelling in the kind of all the Tom Clancy games are fine, and if you're into that sort of thing, and if you click with that sort of thing, they'll be quite good. It's just whether I don't know.
I'll be interested to see how this game
for a while.
fares. I'll be interested to see how, because obviously Siege has got such a dedicated fan base now, player base. I'll be interested to see how this game sort of interacts with that, basically. But yeah, I mean, we will see.
Yeah, everyone I know who plays Siege competitively couldn't give a crap about Extraction. To be honest, they just want to.
Which is danger for this game. That means it might just bomb.
The player base who cares about Rainbow Six doesn't care about
playing Siege.
I don't care about Extraction.
Yeah.
Sorry, they just can't be bothered. It's like it's the whole point of Siege is that it's a competitive game, right? Of you being better than the other team. Yeah, trying to be better than those zombies, man. That's dead. Nothing else to say about that. Alan Wake remaster. Talk to me about that because I have no idea.
Yeah, it's say when I was like when I was a teenager or whatever, I always had a PlayStation or whatever, and Alan Wake was always one of those games that, like Gears of War and like Halo, that was like, oh, I'd quite like to play those, but I don't have it. So and since I've had more of a PC and laptops and all that stuff, I think I've played the first 10 minutes of Alan Wake like 3 times. So maybe this will be the time that I actually play Alan Wake. So I'm quite excited for it on that.
It is low-key one of the best games of the last generation. It's third-person shooter with specific gameplay mechanic where you don't just shoot people. It's a combination of light. You can't, like, the enemies are like shrouded in shadow, and you can't hurt them until you've like burned the shadow off them, and you burn the shadow off with a flashlight. So it's about light. So you burn the shadow off and then you shoot them, basically. And then there's supernatural enemies and all that sort of stuff. Very, very story focused. It's really good. I think when I watched that trailer, immediately when I was watching it, I was like, up-resing this to 4K is not going to stop it from feeling like a third-person action game from 15 years ago, or however long ago it was. Probably about 15 years, though. A little bit less, but it's more like than
10 or something, isn't it?
Yeah, so 11 years, yeah.
Jeez.
But yeah, it's a great game, and I hope more people enjoy it. The 4K upgrade looks lovely. I think unless they're making bigger changes, it ain't gonna play like Quantum Break, which is slick and smooth in its action. But also, it is a better game than Quantum Break in many ways. So it's like, yeah, or Control for that matter. I mean, it ain't going to be anything like Control. I don't know why I picked
Control.
Quantum Break.
Is insane.
But yeah, so that's that. I mean, there's a lot of this, so obviously there's GTA as well. It's out in March. It's GTA 5.
I can't believe that's still being spoken about. I can't believe it.
They're going to sell another 15 million copies on Xbox Series and PlayStation 5, which is bonkers. And that's that. Ghostwire Tokyo.
Yeah. I don't know what I wanted Ghostwire Tokyo to look like or be like, but it wasn't what I thought it would be like. It looks quite I don't know how to say this, like deliberate. I thought it was going to be like, I don't know, some ninja running around with a sword, but it looks like quite a fantasy, like city fantasy, and you're controlling like both your hands with different like spells, almost like in a Doctor Strange fashion. And like the enemies are, I hate saying this, but like Souls, like where it's like one enemy coming towards you and you gotta figure out what's going on, and they've got all the different attack patterns and telegraph.
Well, in that sense, it reminds me, obviously, when you think about who's making this as well, in that sense, it makes me think of the early Resident Evil games as well, where one zombie was a problem.
Yeah.
Obviously the setting's very different and stuff, but what you just described, when you describe that in this context of a horror game, I don't think of Souls. I think of Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, where you go into a room and there's one zombie or there's two zombies and you're like, fuck. on the PS1. I mean, not so much in the new ones. And so if they can recreate that feeling, and obviously there's lineage there, right? Tango
Yeah.
Gameworks, Shinji Mikami being the founder of that studio. Shinji Mikami, of course, instrumental in the creation of Resident Evil, and just survival horror in general, Dino Crisis as well. So maybe there is an intentional move to go in that direction.
Yeah. It looks cool though. It looks pretty cool. Anything
Yeah,
else to say about that? Yeah, go on.
If you ever seen Alice in Borderland on Netflix,
Yes, yes.
Yeah. It's that, but the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite similar to that. So
I'll give that a watch.
and I'm super down for that. It looks great. Just like you, Dorrani, I had no idea what I thought I was getting. I thought with the kind of Shinji Mikami element of it, I thought it was going to be a bit more of a I don't know, a bit more of a philosophical, bit more of a sort of walk around slowly and think about what you're doing. But seems a lot more action based, a lot more. The first person kind of hand to hand sort of spells and sorcery sort of stuff look great, and I'm a lot more interested in it than I was the day before yesterday. So
yeah, definitely. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. There's so much I want to say about this whole Marvel thing in general, but
continues to look fine in my opinion. Continues to look like a solid, fun, story-based third-person action game with some light decision making. It looks like it's got like 7 out of 10 written all over it. We will see. But there ain't nothing wrong with a 7 out of 10 game. This is the thing. So the only interesting thing in this trailer is the song in it. I feel like I need to point out is so they're obviously this is a different version of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and from the film version, from the comics version, it's their own version, and they wanted to explain where the nickname Star-Lord comes from, and so as well as all the licensed tracks where they've got Iron Maiden, Bonnie Tyler, Heart, whatever, all these 80s classics. They also went into the studio and recorded their own original rock band.
Okay.
That is Peter Quill's rock band, and that band is called Star-Lord. I think that's the backstory. But basically, it's an original band for this game, and the lyrics and the songs and all that sort of stuff will tie into the story. And so this trailer is the first one of those songs they've revealed. And I'm a sucker for music being used in this way in games, so I think that's rad, and I think it's another way in which this can differentiate itself from the other versions of the Guardians that are out there. So that's cool.
Yeah, it just looks okay. We've had this discussion in the preview for it. It's not like I need to get this game most definitely, but it's out October 26th. James, did you have anything to say about that?
I am all in on Cosmo. I love a bit of Cosmo the Wonder Dog. Give him to me now. Give him to me now. Just Cosmo the game. I love it. But yeah, a few weeks ago I was playing Avengers because when it came out on PS5, to kind of give that a go, because I think I only played the first level when it first released on PS4 just because I had other stuff to do. But I feel like this Guardians of the Galaxy, as you say, seems a lot closer to the just more standard spectacle action game that Avengers really should have been, without all of the layers of live service and online interaction, all that stuff that just detracted from the pacing and just made it a bit mushy and made you put the controller down essentially. So I think it will probably be quite good, just because it'll flow a lot better. And the only thing I wonder about is that kind of cheeky sort of fish out of water humor going to work with character models? Are the performances going to pull through enough when it's just kind of character models, as I say? But I'm willing to give it a chance. I don't really have many expectations there.
I will say it looks a lot better without the UI on. In the trailers, when they're showing the combat without the UI and all the HUD elements, looks alright. When the HUD is on, like the gameplay that is out on the internet now, it's just like, ooh, I hope that gets changed a little bit, but I doubt that because it's out very soon. Okay, and to round that out, who is this Marvel game made by, guys? Who is Guardians of the Galaxy made by?
That's Square Enix.
That's Square Enix. Okay, just making sure people that listening know. Okay, we're gonna leave that. We're gonna come back to that in a second. Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt was next. Yeah,
I just don't know how we've got to this point where there's like 500 Vampire the Masquerade games.
I don't know what this stuff is, to be honest. Is there like a quick explanation for this? What these games are?
It's kind of
Because
similar to KOTOR in a way, isn't it? It's like one of those kind of old school sort of
Well, there's
decision-heavy
Bloodlines too,
RPGs
right?
where you kind of romancing different people in your part, you know,
But,
this sort of stuff.
but before that, to be clear, so Vampire the Masquerade is a tabletop role-playing game,
Yeah.
Okay.
much as Cyberpunk is, or Dungeons and Dragons. So it's just like there's all these different Vampire the Masquerade games coming from different publishers and different studios, and they're all basically making their own slightly different takes on this same universe. And as James says, there was one particularly beloved one in the sort of PS2 original Xbox era.
That was around 2003 as well.
Yeah, around then. And that one, you know, that was particularly beloved. But yeah, it's. I don't understand why there's so many of them now.
And this is a battle royale, right?
Have to give me a second. I've got someone at the door.
Yeah, and this is a
Yeah, I
battle
can do
royale,
that.
though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a battle royale. Like, I thought that it looks a lot better than it has any right to be when we're talking about, as we're talking about there, that there are all these different skews and takes on this Vampire the Masquerade lore, especially when the main one, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 or whatever, is kind of in limbo and had to be pretty much completely remade. I think that has a knock-on effect for all of these different skews of the kind of wider franchise and the lore, because it just kind of shakes your confidence in it as a brand, I guess. But I think it might be quite good. I worry that there are a lot of battle royales that look quite good. I'm thinking of Hyperscape. I'm thinking of all sorts of things.
God,
that
imagine.
come out and just stay out,
Disappear.
Yeah, I think I like the look of it. I think that the different classes and the different characters and the world and the gameplay looks good, but I think it's in a very difficult space, and it's going to have to position itself very well, and it's going to have to come out at just the right moment. It's going to have to do a Dying Light. Do you remember that game from like 2018, 2017 or something? Came out in like January and there was nothing else out. So even though it was a kind of B tier, C tier game, it really, really hit. I think if there's a space for this game to drop, then it could do really well. But if it doesn't, then
I think it's because it's a battle royale. It's gonna be tough to find a space because they're live service games. How's it gonna compete with things like Fortnite, PUBG, Apex Legends? You know what I mean? So that's a tough one. It looks alright though. But moving on. Deathloop. I cannot believe I cannot believe this game is still getting spotlighted. I can't.
There's no point in us even talking about it because James is playing it and has to be careful about what he's saying.
Yeah.
I'm going to be playing it and there will be a review on the site soon. So let's leave that one as it is.
Everyone's going to be playing it next week. It's like, why is it still being shown, man? But,
because it's out next. Because it's out next week, and it's marketing.
It's been shown at every showcase, and I'm so don't get it twisted at all. I'm very excited for this game, but it just hurts every time I see it. I'm like, I just want to play it. I don't want to see it no more. I just want to play it. Moving on though. Kidamencia? Is that what it's called? It's
not Kidamecia.
Kidamecia. I don't know.
It's about the Radiohead album. For Christ's sake, it's about the Radiohead album. Kidday. It's
Who?
like
I got amnesia after watching it.
It's like a celebration of that album. I've got to be honest, I don't think there's anything to say about that. I think we just
move on.
If you like Radiohead, you're probably going to be very excited.
Yeah,
fine, you know. But,
sorry, Tom.
Uncharted coming to PC.
You skipped one.
And PS5.
Skipped one. Chia.
You skipped the cheer.
Chia. I
Oh,
think. Yeah.
yeah. That looks lovely. Wind
Yeah.
Waker vibes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Breath
want to
of
make
Wild
friends with the
vibes.
crab
Yeah. It's got the guitar from The Last of
from
Us.
Last of Us. Yeah,
Yeah, I was like, oh, they've won already. That looks really nice, man. Looks like, you know, when games are made for kids, it looks like like the target audience is kids, and it looks so nice. Like it looks so good that I wanna give it a go. It just looks good. I don't know what else there is to say. It just looks really nice. You guys got anything to add to that about Chia?
not
I
particularly.
hope I'm saying it right as well. Chia. I think it's the you know. Uncharted Remastered. I think everyone collectively went, and PC when the trailer came up, because that's what my Discord group said when we were watching it. Just and PC. Oh my
Well,
god.
it is. It is. That's good. It'll be interesting to see if they ever bring the PlayStation 3 ones over. But these two games are great. They're probably, on balance, the two best entries in the series. That you could make a case for Uncharted 2. So that's good. I mean, you know, Sony's other PC ports so far have been good, decent, if not incredible. It'll be interesting
Horizon
to
and Days
see.
Gone.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it's handled. Be interesting to hear who's doing it. Because obviously it won't be Naughty Dog; it'll be someone else.
Yeah.
I'm sure. But yeah, I'm happy. Like, I will probably replay both of those games. Definitely Lost Legacy, at least.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of popular thing is bad actually with Uncharted 4, but I think they're both awesome games. Full stop. Like, yeah.
All right. Moving on. Here's where the event sort of said, okay, let's go. And Marvel Wolverine from Insomniac. Oh,
So this is interesting because this game's got to be fucking miles off, because if Spider-Man's 2023,
yeah.
then this game's got to be like 2024
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
or something, or 25. I don't know how many teams Insomniac is now, but it's I mean, it's exciting, it's cool, it's interesting because the tone of all Insomniac games has always been quite fun. It's a perfect fit for Spider-Man. So it'll be interesting to see if they do try and give a darker take of the Wolverine character. And already, well, I say darker take of the Wolverine character. Almost all the takes of the Wolverine character are dark. So, well, apart from like the yellow spandex version, right? But, and even then, you know, he's the darkest one of the X-Men, right? But that doesn't necessarily track with what we usually get from Insomniac. So it'd be very interesting to sort of see where we end up on that front. There's blood on the knuckles and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, which suggests that it is, and the whole nature of the trailer where it's a bar that he's just wrecked everyone in there, suggests that it is going to be a true to, you know, true to Logan sort of take.
Yeah.
But
are we going to see people being stabbed, or is it going to be like a just?
This is. I think this is. It's like, how bloody is it going to be, right? But also, this is. It's a 30-second CG trailer where literally you see his hands and the claws come out. Like, there is. It's exciting. It's cool to see Sony doing this. It's clear that maybe there now might be an interest on Sony's part to build a Marvel universe of their own almost within games.
Yeah.
You've obviously, by doing Wolverine, you've got a lot of options there where you can introduce other X-Men in this game if you want. But there's nothing else to talk about, really, is there?
No.
Yeah, I think it's
not really.
As you say, it's going to be super far off, and I think, as you say, we only see his hands. That says to me that they've not even decided what he's going to look like yet. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're giving
no
themselves
face design
space
yet.
to redesign that character, to make it, to have that kind of darkness slider up and down. That they don't want to commit literally probably three, maybe 4 years before it comes out to having one kind of take on the character. So yeah, it's a tough one, really. And on the blood kind of thing, Spider-Man was when Sony kind of got that Marvel license to make exclusive games or whatever. You think that Spider-Man was the most marketable character, and that's kind of the reason why they chose that. I think with Wolverine, it does throw up a bit of a conundrum because they want this to be the most marketable version of the character that they can. They want it to sell as many to the widest audience as they can. So I'm not sure that they'll slap a big 18 on the front of it. So
Or
we'll have to wait and see.
But imagine though.
No, but I'm guessing Spider-Man. I have to check, but I'm guessing Spider-Man is 12.
Yeah. Because you're just punching people.
And you would think that I'm checking now. So Spider-Man is. Oh no, Spider-Man is a 16 actually on Peggy. So
really,
maybe you do a Wolverine game and that is also 16. But this is what I mean. If you have any blood,
wrong.
I think it starts to tick up to 18. So I think Peggy's slightly useless, to be fair. But like, so what is it? The ESRB Spider-Man is a T for teen, and it's sort of like just too much blood, this much too much blood, and you tick up to M. And so we'll see where they end up anyway. I mean, it's they probably have no idea, right? And then speaking of Spider-Man or Spider-Man,
just quickly with Marvel Wolverine. I know it's only a CG trailer, but I feel like these things work well because it was like 2 seconds long and it does no harm. It's like, it's coming. All right, see you later. Bye. You skipped the game, by the way. Before Spider-Man 2. Skipped the game. GT7.
Oh, I've got those in the other order. Yeah. It looks great. It's Gran Turismo. I'm really looking forward to. I want to get a steering wheel, and I've been a Forza person for a long time. I didn't really bother with GT last generation, so I'm looking forward to going back to GT at least temporarily. Yeah, and it looks good. So
I think the career mode in was it Gran Turismo 3 on PS2 was just like fantastic with the little explainer or the little kind of post show that they did at the end talking to the kind of big wigs at Sony, them talking about how the Polyphony is taking elements from all different popular games in the series. I think that's what I'm most excited about. That there might be a more compelling career mode that we can kind of go in, buy different cars with these different credits, and it's almost kind of RPGified in that way. Because with a game like GT7, which is being so long in the oven, like when games are in development so long, I remember Alex talking about Final Fantasy 15, and sometimes you can see that there are parts of that game that look all 10 years of the development for that game. And I wonder with Gran Turismo, are there going to be some really weird choices in there that speak to how long this has been in development for? But I think it was GT5 where a third of the races you had to be a rally co-driver or something, and you just like turn left.
Well, there were GT games that were so weird, right? There were GT games where they had premium cars and then non-premium cars, and the non-premium cars were like PS2 era character models,
exactly,
stuff like that.
So,
like GT's got a weird history of this stuff.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that GT7 comes out and it has all of the elements, all these fan favorite elements of all the games in the series, and it's something that really speaks to having deserved to be in development for so long, and it does look good.
Yeah, I was never really like a racing game enthusiast, as you can tell from my F1 racing skills. Another video will be done when GT7 comes out though, with the steering wheel. We're going back to it. I wanted to do what's the rally game that came out recently, or it's coming out? Is it World Rally Champion? I don't know, something like that. And I wanted to, I want to do another like racing thing for that. But I don't know. It looks cool, man. Driving simulator looks cool. Gran Turismo 7. Right. Now we can speak about the third Marvel game on the list. The third, and this is Spider-Man 2.
I mean, like, like Wolverine, there's not an enormous amount to say about it. We all knew what this game was going to be, in the sense that we all knew it was going to be Peter Parker and Miles Morales together. You know, it'll be interesting to see how that goes, whether that's almost like a GTA style thing where you're in the open world and you can switch between the two, or what. Or it might be, maybe it'll be 2 separate campaigns. I think the only question was who's the main villain going to be. We now have the answer. That's cool. I don't have an enormous amount more to say about it.
Venom. I think Venom is he's a recognizable character. He's a recognizable character, like a big recognizable character. It's like, okay, yeah, let's do this, man. People know him from the films. Let's do this. Let's just go through it. You missed something a bit with the how it's going to play out, and I don't know if I'm being optimistic.
You're going to talk about in the trailer where there's the double takedown.
Just being co-op. Like, is that something that's completely out of the question? Because do you know how sick that would be if this was actually a co-op game? Like, if it had the capability.
It's not out of the question, but I think in an open world game, and I assume this will still be an open world game, that's very difficult to achieve unless it's online only. I guess that changes the equation, right? So maybe.
Yeah,
but again, I guess we'll find out in a fucking year because it ain't out till 2023. This is the thing. It's just like, even talking about it, I'm just like,
yeah. I know, because we didn't see much, but like, it's all hype, though, isn't it? I think that's what it is. It's just all hype. I get what you mean. It's like, oh yeah, nice trailer, but it's CG. That the double takedown.
I'm
too old now, Dorrani. I need to see.
I know, man.
A man cannot live on hype alone.
Yeah, it's true. No, I fully understand and I fully get it. Because I'm the same way with, like, you see when they done a not Skyrim. Was it Skyrim trailer? No. What trailer came out? Elder Scrolls, sorry. I don't want to say Skyrim, Elder Scrolls. Yeah. It's just like, name! And everyone went nuts of just like the name of it. I was like, are you guys all right? Like, what?
It's a bit like I didn't really get excited about The Matrix until yesterday, and then I was like, oh shit, fuck, when I saw the trailer. So, you know, I reserve my right to get excited about Spider-Man 2. I'm sure I will, because I loved both of the previous games. Yeah. But it's just a bit too soon for me.
Yeah. Nah, rightly so. I just wanted to say that go on, James, because my one's going to be a closing statement.
I was going to do a perfect counterpoint to that, because I didn't really like Spider-Man that much.
Okay.
Whoa!
I
thought that I didn't really kind of vibe with the open world. I kind of burnt out on it quite quickly.
Really?
And that's one of the reasons why I'm a bit more excited for Wolverine, actually, because I think that the character lends itself to a little less of that open world drudgery that you're not going to be able to.
You'd think Wolverine would probably have more in common with God of War than it does with Spider-Man.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So exactly. So that's why I'm a little bit more excited about Wolverine. But with Spider-Man 2, I think as we've said, what I'm looking for is a bit more. Is a way to make that open world a bit more compelling rather than just catching pigeons all the time, and Venom is actually a really good character for that, because there are a lot of different things that you could do with him. You think of the trend in current games for kind of hunter enemies with Juliana in Deathloop, or Lady Dimitrescu, or Tyrant, or Mr. X in Resident Evil, and you sort of say, might there be a Venom wandering around kind of kicking your head in all the time? And that would add a little bit more of it, a little bit more
sort of Nemesis system.
Yeah, exactly. It would be or a Nemesis system kind of thing. It would add a bit more interactivity, a bit more because I thought.
Allow me to posit something.
Yeah.
Before you go any further, I wouldn't be surprised if you play as Venom for at least some of this game.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Are you guys?
That is the other thing that wouldn't surprise me, is if this whole thing is a fake out and Venom isn't actually the villain, because obviously he is typically an anti-hero, and if actually if actually this game's secret is that you play as 3 Spider-Men rather than just 2.
Ooh.
I could see that also,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
Now you're buying into the hype, Alex. Now you're buying into the hype, bro.
But we'll find out in
it could
18
be a GTA
years.
5 style where you just kind of press a button and flip between them and have different missions and skill sets between them, I guess. But yeah, it's a long way off. The Sony rarely fumble. Yeah, and Insomniac is... I can't think of a bad game they've made. So...
Yeah. Okay.
Fucking, they made it. They made an entire trilogy of bad games, James.
Which ones?
Come on, throw some
Fucking
shade.
Resistance.
Oh,
I
Those
rebuke
games-
this.
Fucking
I
games.
rebuke.
Those games are crap. Like, I ain't interested in. Yeah, they made a whole trilogy of mediocre brown sludge. Anyway,
Alex's views here do not reflect everyone in this podcast. We rebuke this resistance slander. We rebuke it. Alex doesn't like resistance, and this is a thing. This is like the 3rd time I've had to defend resistance as a game. It's a game that I enjoyed. So when I'm like, okay, fair enough, but no, you're wrong. So
I just
There's
think
nothing
they're
wrong with a 7 out of 10,
extremely.
is there?
7 out of 10. We take
It's
those,
not great.
man.
I'm not a big Resistance stan, but it's not awful. It's not
Yeah.
bad.
It's not awful. I don't want to be too unfair. It is not
Yeah.
awful, but I
Yeah.
just do not rate it. I do not rate it.
That's fair enough. That is fair enough. Okay, cool. Moving on. Actually, no. Sorry. I wanted to just throw this out there. Are Square Enix not looking at Insomniac like, you bastards, man? You lot are you lot over there. We thought we had this, and then you guys are putting too much pressure on us with 2 games.
They're making different games about different characters, though. You know.
Yeah.
And Square Enix got a fat check from Sony to make an exclusive Spider-Man character for Avengers as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's obviously going to be some rivalry between the various Marvel games, but I think I think Guardians would do all right for them. I think it's clearly not as ambitious a game as Avengers, and therefore they're not going to take a massive bath and lose loads of money on it. In theory,
my read on it was, it was always my perceived knowledge that the way that Marvel is handling its game licenses comes from the backlash to EA and Star Wars. That there was the EA just makes all of the Star Wars games, right? And so they were like, and there was the big kind of hoo-ha with the Battlefront games, and then after that, I always thought that the take was that Marvel looked at that and thought, okay, we'll find the right developers for the right properties to make sure that we are not damaging our Marvel brand in the way that people were perceiving that the EA were damaging the Star Wars brand, right?
Yeah.
I always thought that was why they did it.
Possibly. I don't know too much about the legal
they
side
say
of things, so
they say they want to find the right studio for the right projects, right? And it's clear that Spider-Man was at home at Insomniac. It's like Sunset Overdrive was just like a beta for Spider-Man, basically, and Microsoft paid for it, so even better.
Finesse.
So,
the game's the game. Yeah, cool. Moving on. Let's just quickly round out this conversation with the big one. I know Alex has got a dip in a second, but let's go to God of War, man. God of War, Ragnarok.
I mean, look, this is what we've been talking about now. This is what we've been ramping up to the whole conversation, right? Which is here's a game, and it fucking exists, and they showed a decent chunk of gameplay. Dog sledding looks great. Story stuff looks interesting. Some of the characters just look fab. Some of the glimpses we get of new people. It looks really, really good. It looks really similar to the last God of War, but I get that this is totally an iterative sequel. It's going to be an Uncharted 2 to Uncharted 3 jump, let's say, as opposed to a Last of Us 1 to Last of Us 2 jump. But that's okay. It looks rad. I'm happy and excited to play more of this story. So, yeah.
Yeah, like more of the
Inject it into
same
my
vibe.
veins, man.
Yeah, more of the same. But I feel like when you do that more of the same, it can sound bad. But when it's like more of what was already great,
Yeah,
it's
but
like yeah,
also it's only the second one, right? And they've
yeah,
even said in like the PR and stuff, didn't they? They said this is the finale of this chapter, i.e., of the Norse stuff.
yeah,
So it's like they're going to draw a line under this Norse stuff before it gets old, and then presumably, I'm sure they will do another one. They've got plenty of different pantheons of gods they can play
yeah,
around with.
yeah.
So yeah,
But
It's almost like Assassin's Creed in that sense that they'll just do a whip round tour just for the next 20 years. Like,
I'm here for it though. If they do that, I'm fully here for it. The scale looks a bit bigger though. You can tell they are using like the new hardware. It, but as you said, the first thing I said is this looks exactly the same. But when they start going to the new environments and the combat, you can tell that okay, yeah, this is something that is a brand new. I'd say that one thing that I found really cool.
it's
is
still
that,
on PS4 though. Remember,
is
so
it?
anything they do has to be within the confines of running on the PlayStation 4,
Yeah,
which I think is why it looks so similar. Like what they showed us was PS5 footage, but they can't go too far because
yeah,
they've got to work on not even just a PS4 Pro. They've got to work on a base PS4 from 2013 or
yeah.
whatever year that came out.
Yeah, but I think the technologies have gotten better at how they can like compress and get these to actually run and optimize on the PS4. It
yeah,
just looks
it's
sick,
really,
man. Go on.
it's really, really hard to not only make the sequel to something as transcendently awesome as the God of War, but when you've rebooted a franchise so thoroughly as well, you think of another kind of near perfect remake in Doom 2016. When you go to Doom Eternal, that was obviously a really, really
Yeah,
difficult transition because it was like, do we do, as you say, exactly more of the same, and then it is people say, oh, it's more of the same, it's boring, or do they try and expand the scope with like the platforming puzzles and stuff, and everyone's like, boo, this is terrible.
yep,
But I think Santa Monica especially and Sony first party studios rarely fumble the ball on this sort of stuff. It's almost kind of too big to fail. It's got that baseline of stuff.
They're one of the
unless it
best
just
studios
doesn't
in
work.
games. They're one of the
Yeah,
best studios in games, so it's sort of like that
yeah.
thing of I looked at that footage and went, okay, I'll see you next year. I look forward to it, you know?
yeah, yeah. I will say like the story beats, like little things from that trailer. Obviously it starts off with like Kratos he's sharpening an arrow. And I'm not sure if you guys remember in the first game when Atreus is like learning how to hunt deer and stuff like that. Do you remember? And then Atreus' first thing he does in his trailer is come back by himself with the deer ready. Watch the trailer back. I was like, yes, man, you've matured, and he looks older as well. Is it Sindri in the trailer? He's saying like, hang on, this guy's grown up. What's going on? And little things like that. It's going to be a nice adventure to go back to. God of War, the first one. Not the first one, but the first new one was an amazing game, and I can't wait. The combat looks insane. There's so many new abilities that I saw, and the weight to it. I'll mention the weight of combat because I love games that actually feel like you're doing something, and I hope you kind of feel it with the PlayStation DualSense controller, similar to how you sort of feel it in Spider-Man Miles Morales when you're like punching and you feel things like coursing through you. Yeah. I'm really excited. The combat.
What do we think about the amount of story stuff in the trailer? Because it was one of those ones where it felt like when it's like, oh, we've got to go find Tia, and then they find
show
Tia
him,
in the trailer. It's like,
oh,
how much of the game is this?
but it's like
it's impossible to comment on until we know the answer to that question, right?
Yeah.
We will know in a few years if they showed us too much.
yeah. I think there's a lot to say, but it's like it's more of the same. It's a game that it feels like we've seen it before, and we're just continuing an adventure. If anything, we might even do another video for this, just breaking down the trailer, just the God of War trailer. But that's for another day. I think. Is there any closing statements, guys, for God of War and just the whole conference as a whole?
Huskies,
They
okay.
did good.
We want the Huskies.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did good. It's a good result for Sony, and I think, especially because Microsoft's Gamescom was so tepid and terrible, they had a nice open goal and they put the ball in the net, basically. So,
yeah,
well done.
Top bins. So they had the best conference of the year, would you say?
Well, the year's not over yet, so let's see. I mean,
Who's left?
We've probably got at least one, maybe two Nintendo Directs before the end of the year. And we don't know. Microsoft might do something towards the end of the year. We don't know.
I think everyone's done now.
But we've definitely got, and well, I say definitely. I don't know for certain, but history would dictate we've definitely got a Nintendo Direct before the end of the year, and Nintendo has a big fucking year next year. So
this is true. This is true. Right. Well, it was a banger. I'm glad that I watched it. It was a banger. All of the previous press conferences and showcases this year haven't done a lot. The last one was a PlayStation one that got me excited, was the Horizon one. I was like, oh my God, amazing.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the God of War version of the Horizon showcase that happened.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. And they've done a good choice to not show Horizon here, because we just got a big thing for it. So it's like, there's no point wasting time. We've seen it already. Let's move on. So I'm glad that they're aware of that. I can't wait. Even though some of the games are really far away, I still can't wait, man. Still can't wait. Anything else, guys?
No, I think, I'm looking forward to a lot of these games. I just wish so many of them weren't so far away. But we'll get there.
Yeah, we will get there. We will get there. James, anything?
No, I'm good.
Good? Right. That has been Dorrani, James, and Alex from VG247. That was our discussion about the PlayStation Showcase 2021. Peace out, everyone.
Later.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed it. It's free and you can always unsubscribe at any time. Take a look at our other videos if you like. Also, check out VG247.com for around-the-clock gaming news and updates.